Right. That was so scripted.
That wasn't scripted at all.
Did you notice my superb acting?
Replace that with like really stock audio of someone going, yay!
The claps. Roll the intro music. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Carl and Jordan versus the world, if that's what we're still calling it.
Yeah, we'll go with it. Raw podcast. We will figure it out. I know I said that last time. We'll get there. Just don't rush me.
We are very pleased to finally welcome Popcorn Does to the fucking podcast.
Hello, everybody.
What's up?
Thank you for having us on
No
your
problem
podcast.
at all.
We just had to shout you guys out like 6 videos.
I know. I feel bad because like we wanted to shout you guys out as much as you did, but you just like you blitzed us. Like there
Because we never release anything. Like,
So
it's hard.
well, there's the elephant in the room that we have to address.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. No.
Don't worry, your teasing is coming. We're gonna get you.
Thank you.
We will get into that, but delighted to have you on. Apologies because I've actually been stalking these guys for a while. Just like I think we've been out like probably
Three,
four
four
times.
times, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think around then.
And every time I get really locked, like, you gotta come on my podcast. Dude. I love your guys' shit. Seriously, please. You gotta come on my fucking podcast.
I think it's the pressure of that's made me go, what if we disappoint with the next episode?
Yeah. What if the next episode just sucks entirely?
Now that we have a fan, I
Yeah.
think we gotta stop. We're retired.
The pressure, our singular fan is going to be disappointed.
Can't let down that fan. That's the main thing.
Yeah, well, then you failed.
You
'Cause
would
then
be
a
heartbroken.
100% failure rate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's fair. Yeah, that's worrying. Oh, God.
You guys were actually inspiration for our for doing a podcast
Yeah.
in the first place. We had always talked about doing it, and it just went one night. It was like, fuck it, and that was in our first podcast, the Popcorn, because we were arguing of how shit this is gonna be, and it was like. Yeah, it's just like your friends fucking Saoirse Cat's podcast. That's a podcast. You hear that audio, Carol? We're recording on a fucking iPhone right now.
We look like fucking idiots
like
compared
fucking
to them right
idiots,
now.
You're so sweet.
No, honestly, it was great, and really, you said it perfectly on was the last podcast we did?
Oh, I don't know what I said, so maybe it was.
Talking like, yeah, we need to get Popcorn just on, as we say in every fucking podcast.
Yeah.
And you were like, just the in-depth kind of stuff you guys do with your like kind of movie breakdowns and stuff. You guys explain a little bit while you're here.
Mostly because we're friends, but so yeah, I suppose our podcast. We actually have a little bit of debate about what our podcast is about
Extremely, yeah. Because you describe it as reviews.
I
and,
like to introduce it.
No, it's not.
I like to introduce it as like, okay, we're gonna do a review of Carol today, and then Catherine's like, is it really a review? And I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna do an analysis of Carol today, and she's like, are we really though?
Yeah.
You're just the shit stirrer right there. Yeah, that's all you're there for.
I just have to sit there all the time being like, what does anything mean?
You're the philosopher of the group right there.
which is basically someone who just gets in the way of anything being done or said in a definitive way.
Yeah, but we do. So, well, we talk about film, I suppose, is the crux of what we do with our podcast.
We discuss a film.
We do,
basically.
yeah. And I suppose we also kind of like sprinkle it with other films along the way.
Well, yeah, we have to have comparatives.
Yeah. So and I think so far we've had 2 episodes that have actually been released, which are on the Jurassic series, really.
Yeah.
And a lovely little film called The Secret in Their Eyes.
Yeah, which no one has seen.
Which no one has seen, but it was so much fun to watch, and I've watched it.
Hey, and I watched it after I
you?
seen your podcast.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
what did you
yes.
think of it?
I actually kind of liked it.
Well, we obviously like it as well
Yeah.
because we talked about it for like 3 hours.
Yeah, like I think it's so charming in its flaws, but I do think it's flawed.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, I seen the trailer before I listened to your podcast, and then seeing the trailer, I was like, yeah, I'll watch this. This
Yeah.
looks good. Then I listened to your guys' video. I was like, oh, that sounds like shit. That sounds awful.
It is shit, but like it's the shit that you can enjoy watching.
Yeah, I will say
Yeah.
though, anyone I've said this to, a good few people have then watched it and gone, it wasn't as bad as you said. And I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe that's just because we're film people.
But it has like production value, which I
It
feel like
does.
you can bluff anything if something looks
If
expensive.
Julia
Yeah,
Roberts
that's
is in
true.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can pay enough for Julia Roberts.
And Nicole Kidman
Yeah.
and Chiwetel Ejiofor. I got
Yeah.
the name that time.
Yeah,
Nice, nice,
Thank
nice.
yeah.
you.
Famous
Yeah.
people.
No, it was a really interesting one, which is why we had a lot to talk about. So yeah, those are two which are so far like our babies, I suppose. And
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
had one that never got released, which was on Ocean's 8. But we're
Yeah.
currently working on one which is about Carol. Have you guys heard of Carol?
Yeah.
You do?
Indeed,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice that we don't have to really explain.
Yeah, you know, whatever. Anyone else who doesn't know who's listening,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Yeah.
Oh, right. This is a podcast.
Hey, you guys are here to analyze.
Yeah,
That's it.
analyze and have a fucking good time. That's the main thing. On the topic of movies, this is the first question. I do actually have questions. I didn't just
Oh,
bring
cool.
this over to drink and hang out with me, which most people think I do for this podcast.
Wait, is that not what we're doing?
yeah. I don't know if this is going to be major spoilers for your channel. So, what, in your guys' personal opinion, would be your favorite movies of all time?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a big question.
Because I know there's a difference between favorite and like, okay, that's the greatest movie I've ever seen, and then like, no, this is my favorite one though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you can like a movie better than probably what's the greatest movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
There's
it's great, but it's not
definitely-
your favorite.
Yeah, I feel like there's a definite distinction for me in that I can like a film and I can enjoy films, and they can be two different things. Because there are films that I would watch and I would have liked them, and I would go, it was great, but I'm never watching it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Gotcha.
like
Oh,
it
yeah.
was hard, but like so good. Oh God, favorite films. Jeez.
I think my favorite film is either Tarzan, Disney's Tarzan,
Oh, brilliant.
or Megamind.
Oh,
Megamind.
Megamind.
Megamind's a good shout, actually.
Which is
That's
probably
a
the
good
film I've
shout.
seen the most, because every time I feel shit, I'm just like, I'm gonna put on Megamind.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's
Yeah.
a Sunday night at home in your jammies kind of movie.
Extremely,
to
Hot
yeah.
watch,
chocolate
yeah.
by the
Oh,
fire.
yes.
It's very comforting, and
Some
every time like
popcorn.
that little
Yeah.
the cutout of Metro Man appears,
Yeah.
and like it says "Read words, kids,"
Yeah.
and I just cry.
That's a good
Oh,
show.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
It's an
Yeah.
obscure one as well. Like you wouldn't just think I wouldn't be thinking Megamind in like top 10.
Yeah.
But if it came on, like if I was scrolling through like Netflix or whatever, I'd be like, oh shit, Megamind.
Yeah,
Oh,
the Mega Man's on. Yes.
yeah.
It didn't get the acclaim it deserved when it came out.
No, it
Because I remember
didn't.
like seeing the trailers when it came out, and I was like, it was all like the baby Megamind. Like baby Megamind was in the
Yeah.
movie for like 2 minutes, and like
Yeah.
all of the trailer was this animation they did of dancing baby Megamind. I was like, that looks like shit.
That looks like fucking shit. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That was a great cast in that as well, actually. That was Farrell.
Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
Brad Pitt
Oh,
was,
Brad Pitt
was
Oh,
was
in
yeah.
it as
Metro
well.
Man, yeah.
And then who was the
David Cross, was it? Was the fish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tina Fey was in it.
Tina
Tina
Fey, yes,
Fey?
yeah.
She's magic.
She is great. She is
Everything
so
she
great.
touches turns to gold.
Yeah, I'm actually watching her new. Well, I don't even know if it's new anymore. Great News. They had 2 seasons. I think they're not having a third, unfortunately. But I've just started watching it, and I'm very excited about it. Have either of you watched that?
I haven't seen it. I've heard
No.
great
No.
things about it.
Yeah, because it's Tina Fey.
I,
Yeah.
I know Tina Fey. First thing I seen her in was Mean Girls, obviously.
Oh,
as
of
everyone-
course.
Yeah, classic. But
Yeah.
still a great flick.
Yeah.
What is it? She was sister. She's great friends with Amy.
Amy Poehler.
That's the
Just
one.
watched
That's
Parks
the-
and Rec.
Yeah.
Best show in the
Oh,
world.
it's fantastic.
Apart from The Newsroom.
Yeah. No, I know them too. They're great mates in real life and so on. Amy was married to Will Arnett.
Oh,
Believe it or
really?
not, for-
BoJack.
BoJack Horseman.
Ah.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Gosh,
That's
little
one of
trivia
the-
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's some fun
Jordan
facts
really
for you.
pulls out the movie trivia. I think that's why you love popcorn
Yeah,
just so
I
much.
know.
Because you're just like, oh, I could just be that guy in the corner. He's like, did you know that in 1998?
You should have seen. There was one night that Catherine and I had a sleepover with her brother. This is before we dated.
Oh,
we had
this
a
is the worst.
yeah, back when we were just friends, and we had a sleepover with her brother, and we were like, we're gonna do a Disney night, and we
Okay.
watched 3 movies. It was The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, and
I thought it was just like
okay, it was just the 2 of them. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make the story sound better than it actually is.
It sounds like we have more endurance than we actually had.
Okay.
Yeah, which we didn't because we all fell asleep except Catherine. But Catherine was that guy who was because Catherine is for our listeners now. Catherine is an animator, so she has a lot of knowledge of the animation industry and the process and everything, and just would have known generally a lot about films. As
The Lion King is a tough one for me to sit through without talking as well, because like I'm also a big animal fact person. So like it was like animation fact, animal fact, and I was just there like being irritating throughout the whole thing. Yeah, and both of them fell asleep. So I was there. I think it was when we were like partway through The Little Mermaid, and I realized both of them had fallen asleep, but I was still talking to them.
Yeah, you guys see this cross shot here, guys. Oh, this is guys. You know.
And that's when we knew it was love.
I can already fall asleep to her speaking.
At that moment, I just knew she was the one.
When I woke up the next day, I was like, yeah, that's for me.
Whatever she said, I'm sure it was great.
Well, it works the same way because I listen to our podcast when I want to fall asleep.
I think everyone listening right now probably does the same.
Good night, everybody. That's how we end this podcast.
Yeah.
No, I do like the Disney stuff. My personal fave Disney was Hercules. My favorite of all time.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's just really it's really fucking. I don't want to say it. It was like my first recollection. I can't say the word. Drinks make fun of me. Go on.
You know what? No,
No.
it's too early. I shot myself in the foot last podcast because then I fucked up. So
Recollection of actually watching a movie was Hercules, and that was just fucking amazing for me. I absolutely loved it. What was the song? I can find my way. You know? Yeah. I absolutely loved it. What was your first Disney?
I loved The Lion King. That was mine. I really loved that.
Yeah.
Like I used to watch that like on repeat as a kid, and I mean on repeat. Like it would end, and I'd just go back to the start and watch it all again.
That's so charming.
So, so now that like they're coming out, they're bringing out that new kind of. Well, I don't know what you call it. Like it's not live action because it's all
sort of live action.
It's
Everyone
all
calls
CGI.
it live action.
It's just
it's
a
meant
remake.
to look live
Remake,
action.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
an animated movie. It's just realistic.
Yeah.
Like-
From an animator, it's not live action. You have it here now,
People
guys.
listen.
Yeah.
Well, is animation classed under CGI as an animator? Would you
Yeah,
consider?
yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
My-
a lot of people go on from doing 2D to doing that kind of CG stuff because it
Yeah.
is animation. Like even if there is like mocap involved, there's a lot of
yeah, I get it.
yeah.
Yeah, my dad has a major vendetta against fucking CGI.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
he's like loves like like 70s, 80s kind of films and stuff, and he works for a television company in Ireland we won't name. But, so he's been making movies and plays his whole life. So he's so anti CGI. He's like, God damn it, they're in it, because he works in props, you see. So it's just
they're
like,
killing the industry.
They're killing the industry. It's the props.
There's less puppets every day.
Oh, which we know from the time that we had to try and source a puppet
Yeah.
for a film.
Oh man.
Oh, that's a story for another time. I'm trying to bury that right now. I'm trying to bury that.
This
so-
very kitchen, I seen you in the eBay war for that fucking puppet.
Yeah, he was creepy.
Yeah.
God, well, in the end, I was the one that got him, so he lived in my house
Yeah.
for a little while. So that was swell.
It's
Yeah,
weird how
that's-
you mentioned
that's
that
great.
because that story came from what? The story of JoJo?
That started with your dad because he
Oh.
had a puppet in the television company that we won't name, and he was freaking people out with it.
Oh, wow.
Creep it on. He called it
Full
JoJo.
circle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
JoJo.
he did.
Yeah.
He created a
It's
myth.
the
of-
inspiration behind it.
Yeah, he created a
Wow.
myth of it was like a kid or something that died on the set of the television company we will not name, and there's a ghost JoJo that haunts the set in the form of a puppet, which is really just him like up in the rafters.
Yeah.
Like, and what he does is he has the puppet. It's like on strings.
Yeah.
And like, say there'd be like a director looking at the monitor screen or something. They'd be like, "Yeah, do this, do that, do that." He'll just like literally drop it right behind them. Then, like, so when they turn around, they're face to face.
Oh,
with
jeez.
them.
Yeah.
That's
Steven,
JoJo.
Steven is a big prankster, and I hate it because he knows that I get caught easily. He love
Right.
you because
yeah.
you get caught worse than
Yeah.
anyone I've seen. But once he knows that, he's like, oh,
You don't even have
you're
to.
mine.
You don't even have to try with me.
It's easy prey. Like it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, there's
Like,
no
yeah.
victory in it because it's just.
That's why I don't like try to scare you, because it's just like there's no pleasure. It's
Yeah,
just like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, it's too easy. One
Yeah.
time I was meeting you at the square and you walked ahead and I was coming up behind you. I was like, I'm going to scare if I'm just like, hey, tap on the shoulder. So I just stayed back. I was like, Saoirse.
I thought you were gonna.
And you still went,
I didn't remember that. So in my head, I was like finishing the story going, how did this end? And in my head, what you had done was you came up behind me and you went, don't scream.
You little creep. You little fucking. You little weirdo. What the fuck?
Because that is a thing that is frequently
What
said
the
to me.
fuck's up with that? Don't
I
scream.
swear to God, that's not me. What do you think of me? Is that how I come off, guys?
Exposed. You fucking heard it here first.
We're 8 videos in and I'm already exposed. Great.
Exposed by popcorn dust.
Oh my God.
Because people do try to like ease, like to not scare me, and so they'd be like, "Don't get scared," and I'm like, "Ah!"
Oh, I'm often doing that, like coming into a room saying, "Don't get scared." Very slow.
Yeah. It's different that Carl comes up to you in public. Don't get scared.
Don't scream. Don't scream. Like, that sounds like get in the van.
Yeah, it's don't scream. That's scary because it's like I'm gonna take you. And
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't
my
want
God.
witnesses to know.
If you scream, you will die. That's what serial killers say to people.
I realize now that my wording may have been off.
Yeah,
You're
maybe.
killing me right now.
It's not your fault. Carl's a creep. Don't worry about it.
To answer your earlier question, I like 500 Days of Summer.
And that's our first tangent of the podcast. In discovering our favorite Disney shows and movies, we discover I'm a creep who tells women not to scream.
But can we talk about 500 Days of Summer then?
Great. What's your fucking favorite movie, Carl? Eh?
told
Ted
you,
Bundy,
like-
the tapes, Netflix show.
I do like Zac Efron.
Oh, this is anarchy.
Yeah, this is crazy. We knew this would happen. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. I want to get back to the animator thing because that's really interesting to me because I'd love to do that, but I actually have dyspraxia, so I can't draw a stick man without it looking like a disfigured lollipop stick. But,
You should see me draw a picture then. It's not good either.
what's the industry like over here, Ireland-wise, animation? I say it's fucking tough as fuck, is it?
Well, it's pretty good. Like, there's a lot of jobs going around. There's actually kind of a labor shortage right now.
Oh, really?
So, like, yeah, people, like, studios are often, like, scrambling to try and, like, get people. But, like, at the same time, like, we're relying on contracts from America, sort of. So, like, there just be long periods
Absolutely,
where there's
yeah.
no work at all. And then suddenly every studio in Dublin is, like, trying to snatch you up, sort of.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's kind of very hot and cold,
Yeah.
I guess.
Can imagine, yeah, because I know the
Yeah.
fucking Irish Film Board won't be.
Yeah.
What's animation?
Yeah, well, they're allegedly supposed to be like, you know, increasing the amount of money that they put towards animation, but we'll fucking see.
Yeah. See that and I fucking
Allegedly
believe
is
it.
the big word
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, although actually we have like a short that's Oscar nominated this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Late
Cool.
Afternoon, which is from Cartoon Saloon. Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully the government will see that and be like, oh, wow.
Don't worry, the Irish Film Board will see it and go, there you go, guys, here's $5,000 for your worries. Get yourselves a few drinks over in the Oscars. All right? That's the look to you. Fucking assholes. But, yeah, no, that's really fucking awesome to me. I love animations, as we mentioned, like the fucking BoJack Horseman especially is
Yeah.
one.
I think it's great because you can do stuff in animation that you can't do,
Yeah.
you know,
Extremely,
in
yeah.
like in live action, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
things that would be really expensive to shoot in live action, you can just draw them.
Yeah.
Like, you can just do it. Maybe it's slightly more expensive than drawing someone just standing there and going, ha, 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 ha,
Yeah.
ha, ha. But, like, it's good. You
Yeah.
can do anything.
you can really have like nonsense, like you said, BoJack Horseman there, and that is literally a clinically depressed horse with a like drug addiction and a drinking problem.
Yeah, that'd be
Wizard
almost
aid.
impossible to shoot in live action.
Yeah, I mean, like I know a horse, but
Yeah, but
I
I,
don't know
can't
if it
get
wants
him
to be on
drink.
camera.
I don't know if he's sad or happy right now. You know?
It's difficult though. That's the one thing. Like it takes longer I think, to do animation than I would live action. You can just
Animation takes forever. Yeah, I think like the most footage that I put out like per week has been 90 seconds, and the least has been 20.
Yeah.
So like that's still fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Like compared to like a live action TV show, which would be pumping out like
Or a 2-hour movie. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
yeah, like God, like animated movies take
Years.
Forever,
Years.
yeah.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually funny enough. I was teaching a workshop today, and we were teaching a stop motion animation workshop.
So that's just as fucking tough as well.
It is, but just on the timing, how we wrap up the day, because we expect the kids to make a short film, basically. And at the end of the day, Joseph, my colleague, he ends it by saying, just so you guys know, you put that film together in 2.5 hours. We paid a visit to Aardman, which is obviously a big animation, stop motion animation studio.
Yep.
And they're happy if they can get 2 to 4 seconds. I think it's a day. It could be a week, but I think it's a day.
What?
In stop motion.
crazy.
I would
Yeah.
say it'd probably be a week because they're like a feature studio.
Yeah.
So like that would take a long time, especially with
Yeah.
stop motion, because you have to be so careful with every
You have to be
single
so
frame.
careful.
Like if you're drawing something, like you can just go back and erase something, but if you're doing it in stop motion, like you have to have done it right that time.
Yeah.
Or else you have to go.
It's
and
fucked,
retake
yeah.
the
you
whole
have to
fucking
start the
thing.
whole
Yeah.
scene
Yeah.
again. Even lighting as well, like the light
Yeah.
can't change or
And
anything.
lighting.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they have to be careful with like what shirts they wear, because if they wear like a light colored shirt,
Oh, to
then
reflect differently
yeah.
onto the models and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So
shit.
if
I
you
didn't
look
even think of that.
if you look back at our earlier stuff, you can see some light changes. Now we've gotten better at it. I say as though I've been there for 5 years. But
I
my-
personally made the
yeah.
changes myself.
I'm so good now. Yeah, it's really interesting getting to learn about it. You have to, no light can get in. We have to do it in like a set. It was actually a radio studio that we did it in, and it was that we do the animation in, and it's like the sound block part. So there's no light getting in. It's a fine art.
It is, yeah, which is why I'm grateful that I'm in 2D, which is probably like it's a lot simpler than stop motion anyway, because like everything is just like on the screen, you know, and you can the timeline is all there. You can scroll back and you can change bits and pieces. Like I can't imagine doing stop motion. I did it like very briefly, like in college and stuff, but.
That is not my job. One
No.
of those. Yeah.
Does it
They pay
ever
me
get
for it,
like
do it.
disheartening? You know, like when you've done all that work, because a lot of work goes into it, and then like 20 seconds, all right, or you're like, it's best damn 20 seconds of my life. That's
kinda
quote every girl I've ever
depends.
been with.
Whoa!
All right, marathon man.
It's about quality, not quantity.
Yeah, it's the quality. I'm
Key
gonna
word
use
in
that.
there.
I'll take that down.
Best 20 seconds.
The rest of my life, honestly, it could just be shit from now.
Let's just take a moment. Or 20 seconds. Let's see how long 20 seconds actually is.
20 seconds
enough,
of pure
yeah.
silence. Now, I meant to ask, have you guys seen the movie Inception?
Yeah.
Yes.
Saoirse?
Yes, I have, but I don't remember it very well.
Because I wanted to ask the movie people. Yeah, it's a big thing. It's a stupid question to ask if you guys haven't seen it. Was Cobb dreaming at the end?
I only saw that movie in the cinema. So
Yeah.
I cannot remember what the ending of
No,
that
you
is.
guys
Oh,
said that.
I'm
not
gonna
bad.
say
Yeah.
yes.
Hot take.
Yeah, because I can remember my feeling about the movie when
Yeah.
I left it. So I'm gonna say yeah.
Huh.
It's the whole debate that was the whole thing a dream for the whole movie. That's the whole thing at the end of
Right.
it.
And the way it cut, it was like a huge cliffhanger. The whole thing was, if it was,
Oh yeah.
he had a, what was it, like a little
Yeah,
dreidel
like
or
a,
something?
Spinning top.
Spinning
thing,
top.
Yeah,
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 that's
and then
it.
a couple before
And
it was starting to wobble.
Yeah, it just started to wobble. If it falls, he's awake. If it never stops, if it always spins, he's in a dream. And it kept spinning. He left it, but then just as it could, it just kind of wobbles a little bit.
So you
So-
don't know if the whole
Yeah.
thing was a dream or not.
And there's huge debate over it.
Yeah.
Like,
Lord.
go on comment sections about the movie.
Bleh.
It's just horrible, horrible things being said. And Christopher Nolan doesn't even help. He's like, maybe.
That's the thing though, because
Being
he's
the worst.
right. Because it ended before you knew, so technically neither one is true.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
His whole
Like, there's
point,
no point
his
in
whole
talking
point
about
was that's what Michael Caine said as well. That the whole point of the movie is it doesn't matter if he was dreaming or not. That he's back with his kids. That's the main thing. So the whole thing didn't matter if it was real or not. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Was he dreaming? Or not?
I need to know.
See as well, like I think the fact that they bring up like the question of whether or not he's dreaming kind of means that he is, because if they didn't, because then it was just like, well, he's back with his kids, like, you know, don't think about it. But the fact that they showed you, oh, it's still spinning, is he asleep or is he awake? Kind of like, well, he's dreaming, obviously.
No, that's good. I'm going to ask a few guests of that, what they think of that. I don't know. I'm so confused.
It's a recurring segment on your podcast.
Starts now. We know now. Make sure that they've watched it recently. Like, oh, that movie. Oh, yeah. How did it end again?
I do remember it now really clearly, now that you've reminded me of it.
One of my favorite movies of all time, mostly because it was composed by Hans Zimmer. He's like my favorite movie composer. I'm going to see him in a few weeks.
Are you? My sister is going.
Yeah, I really cannot wait.
I was invited to go, and I forget why I said no. I said no. Like, I think this guy Jordan's gonna be there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not down with that. Forget it.
I'm literally going with my mum. She's the only one who would come with me, because I was like, the other lads like Hans Zimmer. My friends are all like Post Malones and Justin Bieber's and stuff. I'm like, fellas, Hans Zimmer, Tree Arena, hey! It's like, is that an orchestra? Yes. But like, he did the Pirates of the Caribbean music. That's pretty cool, right? No.
I listen to his music while I write sometimes.
Yo, it's fantastic.
It's like, the feeling.
Oh, I love it. I love it. He's honestly my favorite film composer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Probably my favorite composer. Full stop.
Yeah, big call. But that's it. He started that kind of whom kind of thing that's in every trailer now.
That was beautiful.
I hope the audio got that.
Yeah. We'll sync that up. We'll auto-tune that. It's fine.
So we're actually approaching break time at the moment. So we'll be back after these messages.
A few minutes later.
And we are back. Okay. Okay, so I can't even remember what we were talking about before the break, but I know...
Inception.
Yeah. Yep. We'll leave it at that. Pretty sure there was a thing about me being a creepy star. It doesn't matter. We'll gloss over it. What I want to talk about now is, Saoirse, you're actually in the middle of writing a book right now.
I am,
shameless plug. You should check the book out when it comes.
Oh, gosh.
And, there's so many questions to ask about that, because one, I could never... like write a book. I can barely write a text message without spelling errors. So a book would be hard enough. And you're writing it on like a serious subject as well, like mental health mainly.
Yeah, I am.
What was the reason? Why'd you go for mental health as this thing?
That's a good question, because I'm not really a serious writer. I actually everything that I've ever written has always been kind of sort of spinning off of the whole Harry Potter, the love that I have for the Harry Potter series and the fantasy genre. Yeah, it's always been like, I've just had so much fun living in fantasy worlds in books that I've read, and that was always what I wanted to do with my writing. And back when I was 19, actually, when I was going through a pretty bad spell of depression, now you come to mention it, I wrote the first book in a series that I want to someday really properly do, and it was a fantasy series, and it was a murder mystery, and it was just everything that I loved, and I can't wait to get back to that. But then I went on my sort of I've been through a few college experiences. I've been on an academic tour of Ireland.
You're educated. That's all you gotta say. Like, educated right here.
Yeah. So and I found that I wasn't really able to write while I was going from course to course. So this is a very long answer to a very simple question. Basically, I wanted to have a go at something that didn't involve masses of world building, just to kind of dip my toes back into it, because it had been a while, and I wanted to, like, that series that I was working on is so precious to me that I thought I want to try something else, just to sort of to ease myself back in. And that was what this book was. And I thought, no better topic than mental health, because, I mean, that always plays a part in the stuff that I write, even the fantasy stuff. It's very easy to write about serious topics in a fantasy world, because you kind of have an out. You kind of have this isn't a real world, therefore it doesn't need to be taken too seriously. But with this book, it is quite serious, because it's about a young man who is suicidal. And by the end of the book, he expects that he will have killed himself. So that it's a tough write, I have to say. Yeah. So it was kind of mostly just to sort of dip my toes back in, but it is also kind of it stems from a lot of personal experiences that I had, and it's kind of almost like a little self-therapy kind of a thing.
Kind of working through your own stuff through characters, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had a really good counselor who was like just the best thing that ever happened to me after Catherine.
I don't need your pity.
You wouldn't have liked me if I hadn't have worked with her.
You guys.
I'm kidding. I said this is so.
But I had a really good counselor, and now that I've left college, I don't have access to her anymore. I suppose I of course could go to other counseling services and that kind of thing, but right now it feels like this is the thing that I need to do for me to. There's a couple things. When I started writing it, it was not so much. It wasn't as personal as it is now.
Yeah.
The more I've gotten into the character development, the more I've kind of gone, oh, this looks a little bit like these things that have happened in my life. So
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the dog fucking snoring.
I was wondering if we were going to just ignore it.
Yeah, we'll just power through.
Okay.
For everyone listening, there's a dog in the room.
Yeah.
He's asleep and he's so fucking loud.
And adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's won their hearts over, not mine.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
in
afraid
trouble.
with the ice. You can look away. Like,
Yeah, I was
you're
trying to
like
be
real
supple. Yeah, I was being
there.
smooth. And then I heard the dog snoring. I was like, why am I bothering?
Make as much noise as you want.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, but yeah, no, I noticed that, like, especially from your vlogs, like, I can see obviously it is a very personal topic to yourself, and fair play, like.
Thank
fucking
you.
hell. I don't like the way mental health's portrayed on YouTube, like 90% of the time, and I like the way you're so real with it.
Oh,
I
thanks.
like your last vlog I watched. I was talking to you about it, and I was saying to you, I was just like, I actually felt like really not bad for you. Like, I don't feel sorry for you, but I really admired how honest you were with it. Like, you were explaining like why you were just like, oh, I find it uncomfortable when people were saying people that you knew saying to you, oh, I seen your video and stuff, and it's very honest of you, and I like how you portray it because I seen a YouTuber this week. The cross reference to the last podcast you were on about the anxiety thing. Like, that is it's like a trendy mental disease at the moment on YouTube.
I know
Yeah.
exactly who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
she's
gonna shout it out, Corinna Koff.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
She was.
Not just saying that because she deserves to be shouted out. It's for views.
Oh, I see. The title of this video.
David Dobrik. But
she brought out merchandise.
Because she has it, and she says that. Well, she says that she struggles with it and stuff, but she starts selling this merch about anxiety, and like it's like anxiety on the back and the front, like basically
just
like
a quote from the dictionary, like using it in a sentence.
But you're like you're selling that to people. Do you know what I mean? It's just, if I was wearing a T-shirt here, I have depression.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the fuck? And especially she has such a younger audience of kids that are gonna go out and fucking buy that merch. Do you know what I mean? I don't really agree with that. I in your perspective of it, you're being totally honest with it, and you're not trying to. I'm not gonna say glorify it, but you're acknowledging that it is an issue and it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to do things rather than to sell fucking merchandise to kids. Do you know what I mean?
The thing, I didn't mind her, like, putting it out there. It's fine to, have anxiety if, you just want to get the message out there. Yeah. But her thing, if you actually look at what she does, she's an Instagram model.
Okay.
At the same time, she kind of, she'd be part of that group of setting unrealistic, standards for, she gets plastic surgery and photoshops images and all. And that can give young girls anxiety if they feel that they don't look like that. So then she's saying that and kind of promotes, like, it's cool to have anxiety because she promotes it's cool. Now, maybe we're just spitballing here.
Yeah, it's not to be like, don't you agree with us? Like, isn't that so wrong? Whatever. No, it's just with your contrast, it's actually so much. I think we both really respect your approach to it because it's so real and so gritty. Like,
Thank you. I think you've raised a couple interesting points there, and I feel like I have stuff to say on a lot of it. So I don't know. I'm going to get a little bit lost here, but yeah, it's interesting. The shirts with the I have anxiety, I have depression. That's a weird one because there is something empowering about acknowledging something that you have and something that people look at as an issue or a problem or something that's to your detriment. But yes, of course, there are going to be people who are going to buy that to support her because they're a fan and not because they have.
Absolutely, that's my main issue.
Yeah.
There's something strange about, I suppose, monetizing something so personal.
That is a bit strange. I could understand, what I suppose when you said about the shirt, like what I would picture if someone was kind of genuine about that, I could picture someone, doing DIYing a shirt for themselves, not selling it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it'd be best off, like, I'd rather much see someone have a t-shirt with Mental Health Ireland, the charity organisation, rather than,
The quote.
the quote from the dictionary that, none of that money's going to charity. That's going into her pocket. Do you know what I mean? So that's only my kind of main issue with it.
Yeah, no, and that's like, that's a very valid point, because there are a lot of things. There are a lot of sort of minorities that celebrities would like to endorse because it gets them, it gets them support from fandoms, whereas maybe they don't actually there have been a couple celebrities I feel who have been very they're proud to be LGBT icons, but don't actually. Are you going to name someone?
No, I was just going to be like, this reminds me of that thing. Do you ever see, remember that charity Fuck Hate that were a thing years ago?
I don't.
And their whole thing was pictures of celebrities being homophobia is bad, but they had this one thing where it was a picture of Jennifer Lawrence and it just said gay rights in quotation marks. It was gay rights Jennifer Lawrence. And it was
gay rights.
For fuck's sake.
Oh god.
But that has actually become sort of a meme because people say that about things that genuinely are representation for gay people now.
Yeah.
It's kind of just been taken back. This is so stupid.
Well,
we're having it
reclaimed.
That's a different end of the spectrum, and that's that was the thing then. It's just that what I really appreciate your channel is that I know people that wouldn't be comfortable with dealing with their own mental health issues, but to see someone like yourself is so open about it, not that you're expressing your issues, you're kind of just you're acknowledging it more. I think that's a really helpful thing, and I think it's a boot of bus for yourself.
Thank you.
I really respect that. The two of you, absolutely.
Thank you.
I really respect you both for absolutely some of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's right after the break as well. It's so they're all having fun, jokes. Clearly, we had some gin. We just had one too many after the break, and it's the whole thing has changed. It's deep now.
How are you going about getting this book published? What's the plan?
Oh, well, my intention is the plan is to self-publish.
Brilliant.
Just because, growing up, I've sent stuff away to publishers before. I clearly sent it away before I was ready, because it was, even now I can see stuff that I've written in the past wasn't ready.
Okay.
And what I'm writing now isn't ready. But yeah, I had always, because this is just sort of an experimental thing. As I said to you, this is something that I just sort of thought I want to dip my toes in. I kind of thought this will be an experiment. This will be me figuring out the publishing industry. So I'm not exactly going to release it and expect it to do well per se. I'm just going to have a go at it and see what I can do. I'm not saying, and that's not to say anything about traditional publishing. I might try that later on in the future.
Absolutely.
But just because, Carl and I in particular, we did the degree that we did, which was creative digital media. I feel kind of all the people who would be capable of self-publishing, we've been kind of given the tools to
do that.
We have a little bit of a unique, we've had to learn a lot about the internet. We've had to learn about, web culture, and we've had to learn about graphic design. We've had to do an awful lot of stuff that is going to come into play. So I just thought I just want to have a go and see what I can do as an independent person. And I suppose, you've mentioned the vlogs a little bit. That's kind of that's not really something that would sort of come naturally to me. That's something that I'm doing purely because of this experiment, because I know that to be a writer, they always say you have to.
It's like anything now. If you want to be big in music, you gotta have a big social media presence. You want to be big in anything. You want to push anything.
Want to do well on the podcast? You can't fucking curse or anything.
Exactly. So that's just it's kind of something that I'm just trying all of the things, and I'm still really learning. Social media is something that doesn't come very naturally to me.
I like how you're honest about that. I knew that from you saying that in your actual vlogs. You know, you're not like putting on a fake persona when you say it. Like a lot of people would be like, "Oh yeah, I love doing the vlogs. I love being in front of the camera." But you're honest like, "Oh, it's kind of daunting." And I think most people feel like that. Like most people are like, "I hate seeing myself on camera. I hate hearing my voice. I hate other people watching me," because we're all kind of introverted now.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of ways, like social media, you can kind of hide behind stuff. So someone going out and saying it's like, it is kind of daunting. I think that's a really good thing.
That's kind of my whole thing, is just being honest about how I feel at any given moment.
You never get caught out that way.
Exactly.
That's the main thing I said to you when I first listened to your guys' podcast. I'm like, these two guys are the most honest fucking people. I know, like, honestly, you guys have it, like, stick with the fucking social media game, because you're both really naturally charismatic for this platform and everything else. But no, that's what I said. And even in your vlogs as well, it was just like that grittiness and honesty is something that you don't find anywhere else. Like,
especially on the internet.
Yeah, especially when we're doing podcasts, we're whoopity dubbity.
We're not gonna talk after this.
Nice and bubbly, fucking.
I actually hate Jordan. We don't get on.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I'm really interested to see more from you two, and I'm dying to read that book also.
Oh, thank you.
So excited to do it.
Oh, I appreciate that. And you know, the talk of social media, that's an interesting one, because that one is, as you mentioned, it is thoroughly linked. There have been studies done. It's thoroughly linked to mental health.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you made an interesting point about, you know, I suppose sort of the image that one can create for themselves and how that might make other people feel about themselves.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting topic. I kind of, when you were talking about that, what was the name of the person you mentioned?
Karinikov.
Karinikov?
It's her second name is Komphph.
Okay.
So let's call her
this woman. I don't want to, you know, you said things like she gets plastic surgery and that can make other girls feel bad about themselves. That's, you know, that's something that I just didn't want to brush past, because it's... Help me out here.
I don't know if we're on the same page about it. I don't want to jump in on your opinion.
No, I don't think you're...
Okay, because I suppose I'm worried about how I'm going to say this. It's her right to get plastic surgery.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to, I just want to make it, you know, it's not, the problem isn't one woman getting plastic surgery. Not at all. It's kind of...
Like, tell us to go fuck
yeah,
off. Like,
no.
it's no problem.
That's what I'm trying not to say.
We need to escalate this podcast to the point where we're throwing drinks in each other's faces.
No, that's the podcast.
So entertaining.
Yeah. No, you know, I feel like any woman should be able to be whoever they want to be anyone should be able to be whoever they want to be. But there is definitely an internet culture that yeah, you're right. It is. It can definitely be linked to self-esteem and that kind of thing. Yeah. But it's a fine line, because if you know,
there's give and takes from both sides. Absolutely, yeah. I think it all comes back to how you perceive yourself on social media and how that affects people. I suppose you're dead right, where it's like there is a line of like absolutely anyone can do anything to themselves, and if it, you know, whatever they want to do. But there is like both sides of the argument. Yeah, there is rollbacks for both.
Yeah.
It is a tough
it's the
one.
question: is there a responsibility with what you put out? I suppose it's an interesting debate we're about to have. Yeah, because I mean, I feel like you should be able to do whatever you want to do on the internet.
Yeah, everyone has a right to be themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
so
there could be a slight responsibility there.
Like,
is there?
I guess like the point of, you know, about like getting plastic surgery and like how that would affect other people is like, I suppose, be as honest as possible about what you're doing to yourself.
True.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's stuff as well where like people try to pretend they haven't had things done, and it's like just say that you have. Like, I mean, there shouldn't be a stigma in that way.
Yeah, I guess that maybe that's a very articulate way of saying what I'm trying to say.
That's why these two are on, and we're just like,
yeah.
I'm learning.
And that's what I love about, do you know, now, let me get her name right, because I love her. Is it Kristen Bell or Kirsten Bell? Kristen Bell, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Kristen Bell, this is what I love about her, is that she is so, and actually she's another huge mental health advocate. She speaks very openly about mental health and that kind of thing, but she also feels very strongly about body image for young girls and that kind of thing. So she's done, I saw one time, she had posted a picture of herself she was wearing butt pads for an award show because she's very, she's got a very slender physique. Yeah. And she says she likes, I believe her words are she likes cakes. But she's got pancakes.
Cakes for days.
So so she's put a picture of herself wearing a butt pad saying basically, I'm going to look great tonight, but just so you know.
Just so everyone knows. This butt is styrofoam.
And I respect her for that.
Yeah, I suppose. You kind of wish you didn't have to feel like she was going to do it in the first place. It was like, just go out there with a flat ass, girl.
Yeah. But she's not doing it because she's insecure about her body. She's doing it because she likes. Again, this is, if someone wants to alter, to get plastic surgery or to wear a push-up bra or whatever, let it, it's nobody else's business, let them do.
Like, it's a fine line, though. Like, if a person would not feel comfortable going out there without that, that's where the problem is. And you can't decipher between those two things without being that person.
Well, that's what I like about her because I feel she's very honest about,
Yeah.
I don't think it is like I feel like I couldn't go out looking this way. It's just
like
go
out with my natural flat butt.
Yeah, no, it's just I'm dressing up for an award show. I'm putting on a costume. I'm having fun, and I think
doing drag.
She's doing drag, which
I was so quickly about to.
Let's move on.
Flash the picture on, and it's gone. Yeah, I will do that in the end.
Just one frame, just flash it.
They worked so hard to get him in that drag.
And you've been trying to get me back in ever since.
We don't even need to give context for this. Let's just move on.
They're going to see the picture. That's all they need to.
I'll have the Twitch link in the bio.
I lost the competition. That's all you have to know. Or if it's happened, you got to do it.
So that was fun.
No, but I like that. I liked a lot of what you were saying there. And just on the last thing we were talking about, like with Kristen Bell. Yeah.
Yes.
Kirsten, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that the main thing to take away from that is like the honesty was good. I like that from it.
Yeah.
Because there's no illusion then, it's not like the fake kind of Hollywood that, impressionable people. I know we could get like whatever. But younger viewers and all might be like, oh, that's it. But when you're honest about it, there's no thing like that. And again, back to your social media presence, it was the honesty.
Yeah.
That was the main thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the message. Be more honest.
Yeah. I think that's
I think that's a fair from that debate. That's the fair message. Just be honest. Be honest.
That got so real. It was real. That's the realest we've ever gotten.
Forgive us. Yeah, you gotta forgive us. We're two stupid drunk assholes. Like,
just came in and broke the podcast.
But that's why that's why your shit's so groundbreaking to me. It's just like you're saying this shit that we go blah 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 blah. And you're like, well, why don't you fucking? Do you know what I mean? But, like caveman before,
well, thank you, Jordan. You've been very kind.
No, but that's what I love about you guys. Yeah, it's just that dynamic you guys have. So while I'm on that, when am I getting more popcorn, guys? I need my fix.
ASAP, basically. Like, we have one recorded. We recorded one. Listen, we recorded one on Stevens' Day. And currently, what is it, like March?
Yep. No, it's February. Yeah.
I don't know what day it is anymore.
Well,
I work from home.
Well, basically what we sort of said today is we're going on a trip to Iceland in like a week, less than a week. So we're hoping to have an episode up before we leave. And I think partially that's because we are here. Yeah. So that's inspiring us a little bit. I recently made an appearance on a different podcast, and now it's like, God, we gotta.
Yeah. I listened to that as well. It was great.
Oh, thank you.
Dan and Dara Doability. Podcast. Check that out.
Do something in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually listened to their stuff on SoundCloud. It was really, really good.
Oh, good.
But,
just get all the Greater Dublin area podcasts in one room.
We're starting our own little group, our own little community.
Our little union.
Yeah.
You see, it's so hard because I went onto this like podcast forums thing for Ireland because I was looking for guests and stuff. Like, obviously, you go through your friends first and all. But I was like, we will exhaust that avenue quite quickly.
And it's coming.
I like that we're bottom of the barrel.
You were the first ones.
We're the first just rung on the ladder. Think of it in a positive way.
Exactly. And like, it was just like to pitch our podcast to someone. It's just like, so what do you guys thought? Like, is it our topic and stuff? It's like, well, we
like to drink, and we kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's serious.
Sometimes it's both. It's an awkward combination of the two.
Whatever you're in the mood for, it's kind of that.
If I was you, I would kind of say I would call it a chat show.
Yeah, it kind of is that kind of thing, because that's why I really want to do a podcast, is because we'd have these type of conversations all the fucking time. Be it anyone here, all our group of friends that come here sitting at this fucking table, always fucking, it would be up till all hours in the morning drinking locked, and we'd just be talking like, blah, what did you think of blah, 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 whatever. And then you get into this really detailed conversation that's going on for like a half hour, and it's just like, oh, we should have recorded that.
Yeah. And then it's gone forever, because you wake up, and because we've been drinking, what were we saying last night? Something good.
Talk about that. Yeah, so no, I like that. It's more, to be included in a conversation, really. Yeah, that's what I like about the podcast. And
to quote a different podcaster, True Geordie, he said that he did podcasts on Christmas, so if anyone was alone, they would feel included.
Oh.
And to steal that, I like to think that, if someone's just kind of like, yeah, I've got nothing to do tonight, they can throw us on, and it's like you're in the conversation, you can listen, and that's what I love podcasts.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting into podcasts since we started ours. I actually wasn't a huge podcast listener before, but yeah, and especially listening to your guys' podcast, because I didn't really know you too well at the start.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to just like hear you guys hanging out.
Yeah.
And it was nice. You did feel included, especially because you shouted us out.
Now it's like I'm listening to my friends.
I just forced you guys to be my friends, because I just like, I like your podcast. It's real great.
And we appreciate that. We will be friends with anyone who likes our podcast.
Subscribe to
us.
So we're friends right here.
One sub equals one friend.
We'll friend 4 subs.
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
Is it?
Like, I'm so like, do you ever like kind of micro celebrities, like you kind of don't have an excuse to like separate yourself from like your fans.
Yeah.
So it's like they just have access to you at all times, and like people who want to be friends with you are just like in your face all the time, and like, what are you gonna do? Like, you don't have a bodyguard to punch them in the face. Like,
have to sign all those autographs.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully, I never get there. So I'm
That's why
hoping to just skirt by on mediocrity the whole time.
That's why we haven't released a new podcast or a new episode.
Yeah, we don't want to get too big.
I can sense the 5th viewer upcoming.
we like being small time. Here at this channel, we're trying to be small time. We don't want your views.
We need the views, please.
My children are hungry.
Gotta feed
Not
the
that
pets.
we're making any fucking money, because the monetization YouTuber.
Oh, yeah, like-
Oh, they won't let you do anything.
Oh no, not at all. They'll look at this and go, ah.
If some like alcohol companies could please sponsor us, it would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
You
Oh my
should
God.
make your own alcohol. Catherine makes her own mead. You should make your own
yeah.
alcohol, and
Holy
that be what
fucking
you
shit.
drink. And this is your marketing for it.
Small
Okay,
batch.
you guys are coming back.
Yeah.
We're gonna try that. That's a video in
I thought
itself.
about bringing, like, I made a strawberry mead there a while ago, and I thought about bringing some of it over, but it still kind of tastes bad.
Okay.
I think it needs, it either
Needs
just
to
is
age.
bad, or it needs time to age.
No, it needs
so it's
to
like,
age.
yeah,
Meads
I'm not going to
especially.
bring shit over and
Yeah.
have you drink terrible.
I'd still fucking drink it. I
Yeah.
really would. That's great. Now that's a video. We'll talk about more about that off camera.
At a different time. But for right now, I think we're coming to the end of the podcast. So once again, thank you for coming on. Shout out to Popcorn Dust.
Aw,
one
thank
more
you,
time.
guy.
Link in the description forever and ever and ever. 'cause it's
Right
podcast.
here, they are gonna upload again. That's a big deal.
Shit,
You'll love it.
hopefully,
Yeah, yeah. Fucking
So
hopefully, don't
hopefully
make me
maybe the next time, maybe we'll come on your guys' one. We can actually do a proper structured like
talk about
discussion of
Inception.
the movie.
Talk about, well, any movie, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're down. Maybe not a movie.
Yeah.
We're down.
So that'll be great. So like and subscribe. Check out Popcorn Dust, and we'll see you next time.
Next time he tried to say.
Yeah,
He said next time.